Hello and welcome to the Interior Design Business. My name is Jeff Hayward and today I'm joined by an expert panel in the London studio of renowned designer Katharine Pooley to discuss all things craft. We live in a mostly mass-produced, machine-made world of globalised banality. Interior spaces from north to south can look and feel the same. Yet, as human beings, we revel in our individuality and we crave the means to add a personal stamp to the way we live, and also to the spaces we inhabit. We yearn to possess things that are unique to us and that no one else can have. Artisan-made items created by skilled and loving hands will deliver those special touches that make a room memorable and distinctive. But where should designers go to find these precious pieces? And how can craft makers find an appreciative audience for their work? And how can designers best explore and source from the vast range of crafts in existence? Welcome to the Interior Design Business. I am delighted to be joined by an excellent panel of guests for this discussion. Welcome Natasha Mann, Louisa Pacifico, Katharine Pooley, Claire Coles and Sam Fisher. Welcome all to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Now, before we begin, can you each give me a brief introduction to yourself and your business? Natasha, do you want to start?
So my name is Natasha Mann and I'm a decorative artist. I work primarily with natural pigments, neg tempera, and I do sort of panels in houses and buildings, sort of interiors, lampshades, and also painted objects.
Fantastic. Louisa?
So I'm not a craftsperson. I'm a business mentor for premium craft artisans. Run a business called Future Icons, and on the side, or actually, yes, hand in hand with Future Icons, I now curate an event for London Craft Week called Future Icons.
Fantastic. Katharine?
My name is Katharine Pooley. I am a British interior designer. We have 50 staff. We're interior architects and interior designers, and we do most of our work globally.
Claire?
Hello everyone, I'm Claire Coles. I'm a wallpaper artist. So I predominantly make custom-made wallpapers combining paint, collage and embroidery, and everything I make is one-off. So it's a very kind of bespoke process.
And last but by no means least, Sam Fisher.
Sam Fisher, the event director for Decorex, which is an exhibition for interior designers, which runs in London every October.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to come to you, Louisa, first with this question. How do you actually define craft?
How do I define craft? Through skill, patience, and love, really. That's what craft is to me. Is pure passion and love that comes out of it, and a lot of hard work as well.
Indeed. Does that chime with you, Katharine?
I think it's so important that we enhance onto what you do best.
Yeah.
Because it is a dying trade, and we need to keep training people the skills that we have, because we live in a world now where luxury is everything. But what is luxury? Luxury is very different to many people. To me, it's time, but to my clients, it is something that money can't buy. And when you find somebody like Natasha, and I love Natasha's work, it is so individual, it's so time consuming. There's a lot of passion and love, as you said. You don't put a plate that's been hand-painted in a dishwasher. It's come with a lot of labour of love. And I think that those sorts of things, you just can't buy them.
I'll just add to that as
Yes,
well.
please.
They're future heirlooms.
Yes, they are.
So invest well. It's all about sustainability as well. So enjoy it, love it, use it, repair it, hand it down. Quality always sells.
Indeed. Okay. Craftspeople, do you see yourself as a craftsperson, Natasha?
I mean, I don't really think of like a title when I was working, but I guess for me, like craft or a craftsperson is someone who has acquired skills and spend time honing those and to create an end product. And I think that's the big distinction between like mass-produced products, because it's all about getting to the end. It's not about the process. Whereas if you're a craftsperson, the process is everything, and it's actually putting value on that process and actually really taking pleasure from it. So for me, all the steps to create a piece of work are really important, and I never skimp on them at all. And it's that journey to get to the final piece, and I think that makes the difference, and that's what gives the quality at the end.
Do you agree with that, Claire? The process is everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my practice, sort of thinking how I've started out, it's it's been a real journey, and I'm always wanting to develop skills or try out new processes and just learn different materials. So for me, it's all I see craft very much about storytelling, that the piece you're purchasing has a story and a passion behind it, and it's not just about it being a functional thing. It's got like integrity in its production, basically.
And how and where did you train to become the person you are today?
So I was very lucky to do a degree in applied arts. I don't think there's many courses. We're losing quite a lot of these crafts courses. But I was very lucky to do a degree in applied arts. And I spent pretty much every day of college, 9 to 5, in the workshops, just playing with different material and trying to find what was my path, what was going to be my thing. But I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't had that degree to actually just try out different mediums.
It was slightly different for you because I recall that you've spent a lot of time in North Africa, particularly.
Well, I loved decorative painting and sort of beautiful interiors, and then it drew me to sort of North Africa, and I became fixated on sort of North African and Andalusian design. So I actually decided I wanted to go and live there. So I did a degree in Arabic first. And then I moved to Morocco, and I spent a year doing a architectural painting apprenticeship. The man who taught me was amazing. I mean, I was there for hours every day, and he sort of went through every single process. And then I came back to London, and the only thing I hadn't learnt there was sort of making my own paints. So we just used emulsion paints, which is what they use now there. So I actually went to the King's Foundation School of Traditional Arts, and I did a degree there in like traditional geometry and traditional painting techniques. And that's kind of where I learnt how to make my own paints, how to make my own materials. And that's what really gave me and taught me the importance of the kind of journey of creating your artwork and making everything yourself and knowing where everything comes. So everything I make, I know where it comes from. Like all my paints are from earths I've collected, or I know where they're from. I prepare all my boards with like rabbit skin glue. So I know exactly like how it's going to turn out in a way, and I know it's all natural. And
can I ask a question? I'm throwing a little bit. So how do you, and it goes for you too, there's a lot of wallpaper companies that are rolled off, right, or different paintworks. What makes that particular client want what you offer?
I kind of do more bespoke pieces. So it's a mix, actually. I've had some people who come to me specifically because they're into the kind of Islamic design, or they come to me for that reason, and they're not so aware of the background of the paints or, how they're made. And then some people are really interested in using pigments, and actually they want me to use pigments from specific places that they're interested, that hold a special meaning to them. I make, everything's like a bespoke panel.
But do you think they're a particular type of person that really appreciates the craft and the effort that's gone into it?
I mean, most people I've worked with have. I mean, when I've actually gone directly through just a client to come to me, they're definitely keen. Sometimes when it's through an interior designer, it's more I have to then explain the process, because maybe they've seen an image and they're actually not aware of the process or the backstory. So I think it depends.
So it's really, how do we educate the world to go in crafts?
Completely. And just your two stories, very different as they are, it seems to me, Louisa, that everyone's got exactly that, an individual story.
Absolutely, they've got an individual story, and it is down to us educating them. As a curator, I look after or curate 40 to 50 artisans, from stone carving to metalwork, wallpaper, etc. And they've all got a different journey. Some are self-taught, some have gone on apprenticeships or university degrees, but it's about my job is to bring in the right footfall and educate people. So when I produce a show, I ensure my artisans are there. They're their own best salespeople as well. So I can bring the audience, but it's down to them to really, express their passion, to say, look, this is the reason it's £3,000, because it's taking this amount of hours. I've sourced this clay from a certain place, or whatever it is.
Are there particular qualities that you look for from
individuality, I hate saying this, but like a significant voice. I want to walk into their world and go, that's a Louisa Pacifico original instantly. Whereas, I have a lot of people apply for my shows, and I will give them feedback to say, come back once you've explored this series more. Because at the moment it's a bit fragmented.
Yeah. And Katharine, what is it that you actually look for in a...
So I feel that I'm very blessed. I work with a lot of clients that want something that nobody else has. And that gives us an opportunity to go out there and really have a good look. We also have our own librarian. He's always going out there and trying to see what he can find. Quest at the King's Foundation, always interesting to see what they're doing. But we're always looking for the unseen, the unknown. And I think our clients want that, particularly I think in the Middle East. They don't want what their neighbours got. They want something completely unique.
So you've referenced a couple of places where you might go to find a craftsperson or a piece of art that you perhaps haven't thought about, or something being made in a completely unique way. But is there a formal process for interior designers to find these people?
Well, look, you're going to go for people like Famid, you know Famid, don't you? Who I think tries to find some artisans. There's obviously going to be a little bit more of a procurement there, but we're always seeking. We will go out, we will hunt down whatever we can find. And it's a lot of it is word of mouth, I think, too.
Yeah, it's word of mouth, but also as well as try to step in as a mentor, business coach for them. I'm the in-between person between Katharine Pooley, the studio, and the artist. So you can talk to me directly to say, this is what I'm looking out for. And, it's confidence as well. I studied design myself, and a lot of artists have confidence issues, and I completely get that. So there's a big balance with it, isn't it?
It's also timing, weirdly. A lot of fabric suppliers, for example, will come in and say, why haven't you remembered me? And I'm like, I'm doing, 42 projects. And it's about what you see at that time. And that's like, gosh, Natasha, I could have used her here, and here. But because she wasn't the forefront of my mind, you just forget this. It's so fast, that the world we live in.
And I get to flip that over to you, Claire. I mean, how do you get found?
Well, I sort of mentioned earlier that basically sometimes someone says to you, well, how did that person find you, or how did that brand find you? And sometimes it might be that they picked up a postcard off your stand, like 3 years ago, and it's been sitting on a wall. So sometimes it's quite hard to trace, where the work's coming from. But I think for me, sort of once you get those good relationships with interior designers and they've seen that you've produced something beautiful and the client likes it, those interior designers will come back and if they understand your process, they'll keep coming back and they'll feel confident to use you. I think that's the only thing that I probably struggle with at the moment is when you've got a brand new interior designer that maybe doesn't know your work and you're trying to explain the process of commission or what it is, how I work, and they've got to then translate that then to a third party. It's sometimes can be quite a long process, and that's probably the bit that I find the hardest in my practice. Actually, is that kind of, I love the making, but it's kind of that journey.
Another very interesting question to ask, if you don't mind me saying this for both of you, is cost, because I presume, and also to you, but I presume because it's bespoke and it's handcrafted, the hours, therefore the price is going to be more. True, false?
Necessary. Yeah, I mean, I think if I compare myself to other sort of handmade wallpapers out there, I think my price points probably relatively similar. But I think I sometimes always underprice myself. Yeah, and you think something always then takes longer than you expected. And I think being, that kind of like we're talking about confidence, it's like I am confident in my work, but you still have those moments, especially when you're like a sole trader and you're on your own, thinking, is this good? Is it going to be okay? Is the price okay? And normally it's absolutely fine, but I still have those moments of doubt. I'm in a studio with some other makers, and actually we have this bit of network to talking things through. But yeah, it can be,
because it's not just them coming to us. We've then got to take it to the client and say, this is what you've got. It's more expensive. But my goodness, you're getting something else that everybody else has got.
I don't know. Are artisan-made materials naturally more expensive anyway?
I think it's more the time.
So it's more precise. Yeah, definitely it's time. Yeah.
So very quickly, just digressing up. So my father makes swords for the.
He makes swords.
He makes swords. Okay, and every single sword is handmade. He's 91 yesterday, bless him. Wow. So, and he is there grinding at 91. But he loves it, and it's just like your work. It's so specific and detailed. And he's in a little, you're not allowed to call it a factory, it's a workshop. And you've got artisans there from, been there with him for 30 years. And that's what I love. It's a community and giving your passion, which you mentioned.
Yeah, and handing down, nurturing the next generation.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in trying to encourage the artisans that I've worked with to take on apprenticeships.
And Sam, you had a bit of a role in Claire and Natasha's breakthrough. So do you want to just talk a little bit about how you...
Yeah, sure. So at Decorex, I think we figured it out, it's about 5 years ago, we started an element at Decorex called Making Spaces, which essentially is a kind of application process for makers to apply to be part of this area at Decorex. And we're looking for people that can really show the process interactively during the show. So in the end, we have some lovely judges, including my good friend Louisa over there, who choose about 15 makers to be a part of this area. And it really gives a platform, I think, and I guess these guys can tell as well, to just to a different audience, I guess. Like, I don't know if you've exhibited other places, and future icons do the same thing, but I think we have 80% of our audience is interior designers, so it's a really good platform, I think, for makers to really show the process of what they're doing, and as you said before, having the time to really talk the visitor through what they're doing. And I think through that we then met Natasha and Claire, who have Natasha's been a part of our creative campaign last year for Decorex. So you would have seen Natasha's work across all our adverts and website and on site on the signage. And then Claire this year is taking the baton over to do the same. So we're really excited to see how that plays out.
And as a maker, Natasha, what was that experience like for you doing Making Spaces?
Oh, it was wonderful. I mean, they're all so lovely at Decorex. So it was actually a really, really nice process. And you kind of gave me complete freedom to make what I wanted. So I kind of tried to create a design inspired by the building, and it's a Victorian building. So I did a sort of Victorian tile pattern. But yeah, I was like really impressed how you kind of translated the painting into the printing. And also, obviously, with hand painting, nothing's ever completely perfect, and it's actually really nice how you kind of kept that with the printing, so you can see it's still hand painted originally.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. We've kind of used makers from Making Spaces to use in our creative campaign for the last few years, and it's creating an individual pattern every year, rather than us in the old days you'd like photo shoots of furniture and lighting and everything, and then it's too biased to one exhibitor or everything. So I think actually using people that we've worked with and kind of carrying on that Making Spaces journey for them, it's really worked out really well for us, and hopefully them.
It's an amazing opportunity for you guys, and this is a bit of a curveball as well for you, because it's a completely different process from what you usually.
Definitely.
They're brief.
And
I think it's great.
And I'd imagine it's incredibly useful for designers to see how things are made, because you need to educate yourselves about that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's fantastic. Natasha came in and actually did lovely demonstrations.
And Claire, you've sort of grown with Decorex over the last few years. You're telling me.
Fortunate enough to be. I think we worked out it was the first year of Making Spaces.
You too, actually.
All right.
Sorry.
It's fine. So yeah, I mean, it was to take on a stand at a show like Decorex. It's quite a big investment. So having having Making Spaces is an opportunity to see, is this show going to be right for me? Am I going to meet the right people? Am I going to have the right conversations? And I mean, I loved it. That first year I did it, I set up, I had some gold leaf wallpaper, I had paints, and I had people just coming past and watching me paint. And then it really, I didn't just have the work on the wall. They could really see that process of making. And when you speak to the interior designers that are going around, you'll find that a lot of them, their favourite space at the show is the made at spaces. And then I was fortunate to then, the next year I came back and there was a Making Spaces 1 year on, and then met some other lovely makers on that stand, and then I did a group show with two of them in the main hall this year. So I've had this sort of progression of a journey, and then I'll come back and I've got a bigger stand this year.
Wow, fantastic. For nearly half a century, one name has defined excellence in luxury interior design. Decorex isn't simply an exhibition. It's the UK's most prestigious destination where the finest design minds converge. From the 11th to the 14th of October, Decorex will take place at Olympia. You'll discover new brands making their debut alongside established names, witness groundbreaking collaborations, and explore entirely new creative spaces. Whether you're designing residential environments or luxury hospitality spaces, these fresh brands and collaborations alongside emerging talent will seamlessly elevate your vision. You'll gain exclusive access to more than 85 interior design thought leaders through inspiring design talks, intimate roundtables, and you can watch firsthand the craft that goes into our industry's unique products through our Making Spaces area, with a strong focus on connecting brands and clients to drive meaningful business opportunities. Your single pass unlocks 4 full days of access to Decorex. For those who shape the future of interiors, Decorex 2026 at the transformed Olympia venue represents more than inspiration. It's an opportunity to discover and witness the future of design. I am interested, Katharine, in how a designer works with makers. So could you just talk us through how you think about applying what a maker does in practice? Because you can't use what Claire or Natasha do everywhere. So what's the process for you like?
So it really depends on the client. It really depends on the house, and it also depends on the culture of that, what the house is. But generally speaking, we would, for example, I'm trying to do one downstairs now, and I've got till this afternoon to get it right. But it's a matter of trying to find the right artisan for the right area, the right job for the house, and getting them in, getting them to educate us on what you do, what can you do. We might push their boundaries a bit and say, look, they want this, can you do that? So it's about working together with them, but making sure they really explain their capabilities.
How do you find working with interior designers, Natasha?
I've actually really enjoyed it because it does sort of push you, because quite often if it's just me and a client, it's sort of more in a comfort zone of what I normally do. And with interior designers, I've always been pushed to do things that are slightly different, sometimes completely different. And then, so for me, it's actually been quite satisfying. And then also I find it sort of helps a bit because then it takes away a lot of the admin side because the interior designer's dealing with the client. Yeah. So
I think the hardest job for us is trying to get the message from the client and then handing it over. Yeah. And because they're such creatives, they tend to understand it more than the client does.
And do you use somebody like Louisa as a bridge to find the right person?
No, but so when people apply for my show, I do interview them as well because I want Katharine Pooley Studio and her team to come to my show, but I want to ensure the artisans I'm showing are ready to be able to take orders as well. I found something, I used to work on new design, such as graduate showcase.
I remember, yeah.
Years ago. And a lot of them want to do my show, but they're not ready. I was like, is your studio ready? Package it, every fine detail. So it was like, come back to me 3-4 years time when you're ready, then do the show because I'm not about to take their money. And yes, I'll have a nice experience, but it's not going to go anywhere for them because it's going to upset you in the long run as well if you're working with someone who isn't, qualified to deliver on time.
I think that's a very good point. Generally speaking, most of our properties are large properties. We're looking at minimum 20 to 40,000 square feet. And for poor Natasha to have to then do the ceiling, let's say, of 60,000 square foot, she's going to be on her back for months. And she's got to be capable of doing that.
Well, I actually do it all in panels and then install it after.
Can she do that in 2 months? Which is really what all my clients want. Well, there's a lot of...
Lead times must be another big issue for you, yeah.
I'm always pushing boundaries, unfortunately, that's what...
This is where you bring apprenticeships in, apprentices in. Yeah. So you can carry on your skill set, teach them your way, and then hopefully it can be done within 2 months.
There we go. We push them back a bit.
And I'm also intrigued by the are they ready kind of conversation, because one of your concerns surely must be, is this person going to stay in business for the length of the project to complete it?
Well, I think that's any business right now. But there's going to be a certain element of that. But I think it's really important to try to trust them and invest in them and give them a chance, especially if you think their product is sensational.
Well, this is why I've never held an online gallery, for example. During COVID, the artists were like, Louisa, invest in the gallery. Bloody percent. You have to have an emotional connection with this work if you're going to invest X amount of thousands of pounds. That's why I always do live shows. And, Decorex is perfect for that. My show's great for that as well. Well, you meet the artist, you see the work, you touch it, you smell it, and then you have that connection. Whereas, you're asking, I don't know, £500 per square metre for some block printed wallpaper online. you're going to get the sales just on that. I don't think so.
Do you feel under pressure as a micro business, Claire? Do you even describe yourself as a micro business? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, half the time I don't know what you're. Am I an artist? Am I a craft person? Am I, what am I? But yeah, I think you have to spread yourself across so many sort of heads when you're a craft person. Like, I'm doing my own marketing. I'm doing my own, I'm doing the making. But I think what we do have is because, if we're an individual maker or a small business, we do have sometimes quite a lot of flexibility. So if you came to me and said, right, I've got this deadline, I'm going to work my heart and soul to get that done. And I want it to look amazing. And I want it to be the best work for them and for myself as an artisan. So I think although, you have these kind of, it is tough maybe going to a smaller studio. There are, you might feel like there's risks. You get this really personalized experience of dealing with that, that one, you're dealing with the artist. You're having direct conversations with them, which is, I found when I've worked with interior designers and then sometimes the client wants to be involved in the process as well. They want to come to the studio and I say, well, which fabrics do you like? And then they're on the journey as well, and they love that. So when they've got this piece in their home, they can be like, I picked that flower, or I really love those colours. And Claire, twisted and turned her work to make it like that.
And you talked about storytelling earlier, I think, Louisa, didn't you? And that is a huge part of what you do and a huge part of the attraction for the client, I'd imagine.
I think it's a bit like shopping. It's a bit like we're bored of high street. Whether it's the same, big brands, it's just big brands everywhere. We want those little boutiques.
You'll buy advertising, quite frankly. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas in my home, very, very individual at home, but I literally know pretty much every artwork or piece I've got and the story behind it. And I bore people to death about it. But, this is my little museum.
Sounds really entertaining going to your hair station.
Should have done a podcast from there.
Next time.
Do you find it intimidating when you're faced with sort of scaling up to a big project, Natasha?
Well, I mean, like Claire was saying, because when you're on your own, you are quite flexible. So I actually have a studio. I'm at Cockpit Arts in Bloomsbury, so I've got a shared space there. I also have a studio at home. So quite often if I, have a deadline or something that is bigger than what I can actually do during the day, I do work in the evening. And, because I love what I do, I don't mind doing that at all. And, if I have a deadline, I make it happen. But, also I'm realistic. Sometimes there's some things I just can't do. And then, I have to be honest about it. Or it's either you get someone in to help you or it's just not possible. But that's why it's really important having those conversations at the beginning. And, you do your best to see how it could work.
And do you think you're a natural storyteller yourself, or is that something you rely on the interior designer to do for you?
I don't know. I just don't really... I'm more of a maker, I think. I mean, there is a story in when I'm doing my own work, for instance, all my pigments are all from other places. And I love when I see one of my paintings, I kind of see lots of different places because I know how each colour's been made. So that's a story in itself. But I don't sort of actively think about it. It just sort of happens, really.
I think Natasha's being very humble. I actually think that when you love something as much as clearly they do, that they're the best storytellers, without a doubt.
Yeah, better than you doing it on
100%.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think about that, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone we've had at Decorex or everyone I've met, luckily through the industry, I just think rather than like an established brand, they've obviously got their own story, but an established brand selling furniture and things like that, I just think you've probably got a sales staff or someone talking to you about this piece of furniture and it feels really salesy. But I think when you speak to one of these guys about their product, I think it's the passion again, but it's the storytelling. I mean, they've got a story even from how they've, been through their career to get to that point, I think is just the most interesting thing about it, as we've kind of said.
And I'm sure the designer's role is figuring out the client who loves to tell stories about the pieces that they've got in their house. Surely, I mean, you must think they're going to love sitting back, talking with their friends over a drink about this table or this piece of artwork on the wall.
I think the cost now of interior design is so astronomically expensive. Do you remember in the days when we might have bought a house and it was normally in those days about 10% for the build work, and now it's 100%, isn't it? Yeah. And I just think that if we're going to do a job, do it well, and use the best people to bring a story, a bit like your house, where it's more of a museum where they gathered things from
I
around the
will
world.
want so as well. Make sure they're quality products.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
exactly.
just the time is there, but
And
mid classic.
you mentioned heirlooms of tomorrow. I mean, is that really important for clients too, that they're thinking of?
When did you last do your house? You're meant to do it every 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm funny enough doing a project right now. The client has done it for 26 years. And that shows the real test of time. And that's what you want to be doing, in my opinion. And that's quality.
I'm waiting for our kitchen to last 25 years. This is the cost.
It's expensive.
Are you conscious of creating heirlooms in your work?
I think the thing is because when you're installing a wallpaper, this is the thing. It's different from maybe if you've commissioned, beautiful, I don't know, a table. That thing's good.
Or a piece of sculpture or
It's
something.
good. But so you do have this series like, oh, one day they're going to rip that wallpaper off, in like 10 years. I mean, so that I do sell a lot of my work as panels now. So there's that option of like, we can take it off the walls afterwards. We can frame it afterwards. It could move with you because so I find I like to have that kind of option within my work. But I hope that someone has my work and it's going to be passed down.
I love that you're consciously thinking about that. That's really interesting. What about you, Natasha?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I do work for interiors, it's always on panels because with egg tempera, you have to paint on wood and I have to do it flat, really. I mean, I can do it upright, but it's a lot harder. So everything's on panels. So in theory, you install it, but then you can remove it straight away and then it could be a framed painting. So I do think of it in that way. And then a lot of the objects I do, I hope, they do get cherished and get kept.
Yeah. Do you think you might end up in an art gallery eventually somewhere?
Oh, who knows?
What about you, Louisa? What's your thinking around that heirlooms of tomorrow?
There's a client I'm seeing tomorrow called Zoe Wilson. She's a stone carver, part of Quest as well. I mean, these objects are just insane, quite frankly. And they're all, they've been in the geometry with it, but I instantly see it as an artwork as well as a sculpture.
You're a curator, aren't you?
Yeah, well, personally I am, but just looking at these objects, I come from a business point of view as well. Well, okay, your artwork is for ceilings, but yes, let's try and talk to the galleries about having that as an offshoot.
And Katharine, when you're managing client expectations, working with makers,
Oh, none.
well, I mean,
No expectations.
you've talked about price, you've talked about timelines. Anything else that
I think to be an interior designer, you have to be a really good salesperson, actually, because everything we're doing is selling to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
It's educating them as well.
It's education.
Why they're purchasing these over that.
And because the pieces are so individual, how do you deal with the situation where the client might say, well, that's not quite what I expected?
So I think it's about getting the brief first and making sure it's matching what they're wanting. Hopefully understanding the client at the very beginning will help you match the product. You don't want to get it wrong, especially if there's cost involved. That is quite important.
Yeah. Do you find that helpful that interior designers are helping to manage those client expectations?
Yeah, it can be really helpful, actually. But I mean, sometimes, it is easier actually just to speak to them directly. So quite often when I have worked with designers, I've ended up speaking to the client as well, just because, not everything's fully understood and they quite want to ask me more questions or change anything.
I think in bespoke work, they normally see a sample anyway, so they know what they're getting. Yeah. And you've also got to explain to them, look, if it's an artisan that's doing it, it's not a hand machine. Yeah. There's going to be, a line that's wonky. Yeah. As long as you explain that to them up front, that they'll appreciate actually that wonkiness.
So you welcome the client being quite close to your work, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I like working in interiors is that I like the idea that I'm twisting and adapting my work to a brief. I find that exciting, and it sometimes pushes my work in a direction I wouldn't think of. So yeah, I like that. I mean, within reason. I will say I'm really bad at geometry. Like the idea of your work, like doing paint, I am like swirling, flowing brushstrokes. So, I'll be very clear. Like, there was an interior designer came to me after Decorex and was like, would you be able to do this embroidery? I was like, no, I would not be able to do that embroidery. It's completely out of my comfort. So this is what I do. Yeah. And there's no point in wasting any time, But I will always provide a sample and a layout drawing of how I imagine the work to be. But the client has to be almost just faith that I will deliver it, because I can't show exactly what I'm going to be making.
Can I ask you something? Do you charge for samples?
I do now, yeah. Well, it depends. It depends who. Yeah. Not very much.
So that's really important.
And mine, it comes off then. If the commission goes forward, it will just come off. Yeah. And I think it does then. You really get a sense of, right, they do really want to use you, because if an interior designer is looking at maybe 10 different people, for a project, and sometimes they won't. You don't know that. Sometimes now I don't know whether I should ask that question, like how many wallpaper artisans are you looking at? But you can get an idea very straight off, right? This is quite they are thinking seriously about.
But that's very important. A lot in I've been running Future Icons 9 years. Claire was actually an early client, and many of my clients were not getting paid for the R&D, and it'd take them a week, and they're a sole trader. So that's where I put my foot down. I was like, no, if they can't afford your, day rate up front with the promise you'll take it off afterwards, then they're not the right client for you. So again, it's building on that confidence to make sure.
It's very hard though, because even as a designer now, I might have to pitch, but free of charge. Some appear, some aren't. And it's a lot of time, but in this market, you can't be fussy.
I normally have a selection of samples just in the studio available. So if you needed a sample, I would send you one.
Yeah.
If you're like, I've got this meeting, I was like, it might not be the right colours or exactly the right, but just have the sense of the material. Because my work's very textural, and I think until you see it in the flesh, it doesn't really, it doesn't sell itself until you're actually physically touching it and seeing how it is in the light. So
there's a difference. So if they're buying Claire Cole's a brand, then yeah, of course you've got example. Yes, but if they're asking for something very specific, to me, you should charge them.
Do you feel the same, Natasha?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I've been doing a lot of lampshades, and it's quite difficult because obviously they're not huge, but then I have to create a design, which takes time, and it's like I can't charge like a load extra on top of then the painting. But normally someone comes to me and there's never a question, they're not really going to go through with it. So I've never had a situation where I've spent ages doing a preliminary design and then it's not really gone through. But yeah, for smaller objects, I think for bigger things, it's different. But for small things, I think it's quite hard to just charge an extra day
of R&D.
Yeah. For when it's actually only a lampshade.
Yeah, but they're already looking at it, but it's very, very specifically different. I don't know. Yeah. Equally, perhaps you're not the right artist if it is so dramatically different.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's your chance, Louisa.
Oh.
Where should designers go to find the makers of tomorrow?
At Future Icon Select in Maine. Thank you very much.
Decorex in October.
October.
Are there any other places beyond those two that we've already referenced?
The King's Foundation, Quest, Decorex are all partners of my show anyway. New designers for very, very, very early stage people. And then there is an organisation called Home Faber. I've been working with them recently, and they've got their craft biennale in Venice in 2026. So even if you can't go, perhaps look at the social media, because they're selecting up to 700 artisans worldwide.
Yeah, where would you go, Sam, to connect with the makers of the future?
Well, we're lucky enough that actually, a lot of them come to us to be a part of it. But I also go to, other places like Future Icons and like events in Craft Week and things like that during the year, just that we can kind of keep on our toes and see who else is out there, really.
How long ago did you start making spaces?
So we started making spaces around 5 years ago. It started quite small with just, I think, 2 or 3 or 4 makers, or a few from Quest as well. And then we've kind of grown it with help from Louisa and Quest and Cockpit and other associations. And I guess we wanted to look at, the fact that Decorex is 48 years old. It's a very established brand with some very loyal and established brands that have been with us, exhibiting with us for the past.
So nearly 48 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did Decorex my first year 22 years ago.
Really?
That's 48. It's incredible.
So yeah, it's a really established brand, and so we just wanted alongside the kind of loyal and established brands that everyone knows really, to bring in a bit more of that craft element, and to show some really unique pieces, because obviously that was craftsmanship has been around more than Decorex. I think it's just putting a spotlight on it really, and I think that was necessary in those times and still is. But we hope that platform really kind of grows them and provides a different audience for them to sort of sell their products.
100% it has. I know when on a year two, I was starting to help out with you. And I know obviously many of the artists who they got one of them, not going to name names, got 5 commissions between the October and December. Yeah. It's just like brilliant. And then they came back the following year.
And I think, as Claire said before, it is our most loved area at the show. Like, some people just come to see that, to be honest. But it's a really lovely kind of fresh aspects of the show, alongside all our other loyal exhibitors.
Do you enjoy it, Katharine? Did your team visit Making Spaces particularly?
We were at Decorex every year.
Yeah.
We support you.
Right, good. I think the feedback you get is phenomenal, though, isn't it?
We're really lucky just to be able to put these guys on a platform, and for them to just have such great work to be able to show.
And how can designers interact with what you're offering there at Making Spaces?
So all the makers, one thing they do have to be able to do is show their work interactively. It's part of the whole concept of it. But alongside that, we also have workshops. So some of the makers then can put on these sort of very small workshops within the show, so that visitors can come along and work with them to create something, which is also a lovely aspect.
Fantastic. Right, I'm going to round this up with one final question, which you're all going to get. So I don't know who feels comfortable starting this off, but most memorable crafted piece that you have ever encountered, and what made it so special? Who wants to take that first?
I was ready.
Go on, Claire.
Right, well, I have been around crafted things for like 20 years since I sort of graduated. There's a lot of things I've loved, but there's something I saw recently that I was just like, that is incredible. I don't know if it's just because it was ceramic, and I've always wanted to be a good ceramicist, and I can dabble, but I'm not. But there's a lady, she's done this Marie Antoinette ceramic piece in the V&A at the moment.
Okay.
So there's around 4,500 pieces of ceramics doing this mural. And what I love about it is every little piece of ceramics is handcrafted, but then she's scaled it up to this, mural, and it's just a very beautiful piece, and it's lovely to see that the V&A are commissioning work like that.
It really is.
Yeah, and to see, that's one of my kind of favourite pieces.
Okay.
So I collect pens. I'm going to say it before my memory goes. I collect ink pens. And I think one of the nicest pieces that I have, and I have it in my bag and take everywhere with me, is a beautiful enamel ink pen. It's all been hand created, and it's got the skyline of London Bridge, etc. But it's very beautiful. It's with turquoise enamel, and it's been made by a company called Clique.
Love that. I've been fortunate enough that I've been gifted a lot over the years. So, in the industry, 21 years.
Going back to your house again, huh?
Yeah. For my 10th wedding anniversary of my husband, he bought a piece of my show, Future Icon Selects, by Olga Prinku. She hand collects flowers from the local fields, dyes them and embroiders them into this beautiful mesh work, and it's now hanging in our hallway, and I love it, looking at it every day.
Oh, goodness. Well, my great-grandfather was a wood carver in France, and my mum has inherited a load of his carvings, and a lot of the things he made that are quite like, he made a nativity scene, and there's a crucifix, and I actually don't even have them because my parents have them, but they're actually my favorite things, and I absolutely love them. And I never met him, but I just love, just by seeing them, I kind of imagine what he was like and imagine him making them.
Sam, have you got one?
I've got a couple, but I think we used to do another area at Decorex many years ago before this, which was kind of pushing towards craft. But Marcin Busak, do you know him?
Oh yeah, I know.
He's like pressed flowers into like tabletops and what are those things called? separators,
Screens.
thank you, enter screens, and I just remember them being so beautiful, and he was also very, very lovely. So that's one of my big memories.
Well, wonderful. Thank you all so much. It's been a lovely conversation. I've learnt a lot, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing your insights today. And thanks also to Katharine and her studio team for hosting us here today in this beautiful boardroom. And thanks also to Decorex for partnering with us on this episode. We do hope you've enjoyed the show. And please do get in touch on our social channels at Interior Design Business Pod to share any feedback. The Interior Design Business is a Wildwood Plus production. Thank you.